Welcome to Voice of a Woman, where real lives speak, and silent hearts finally find their voice. My name is Margaret Ellison, and this is not a story I ever wanted to tell. But at my age, silence costs more than truth. I am 68 years old, and until recently, I believed that if a woman gives everything to her family, love will protect her in return. I believed patience was strength, and endurance was dignity. I believed wrong. I used to sit every morning on the same sofa chair near the window, watching sunlight fall gently across the living room floor. That room had seen birthdays, arguments, apologies, and forgiveness. It had seen my children grow taller, my husband grow older, and my heart grow quieter. I never imagined that one day, I would sit in that same chair and realize I no longer belonged in my own home. I married Henry Ellison when I was 24. He was not a rich man, but he was honest, and in those days that felt like enough. We worked hard, saved slowly, and built a modest life that felt full. When our son David was born, I held him in my arms and promised myself I would never let him feel alone in this world. When our daughter Linda arrived 4 years later, I made the same promise again. I kept those promises. I stayed awake through fevers, packed lunches, ironed clothes, listened to teenage anger, and smiled through my own exhaustion. When Henry lost his job one winter, I sold my jewelry quietly and told him it didn't matter. When money was tight, I learned how to stretch meals and hide worry behind warm dinners. Henry used to say I was the backbone of the family. I never felt strong. I just did what needed to be done. The day Henry died, a part of me went quiet forever. But I stayed standing. I stayed useful. I stayed available. I thought that was what a good mother, a good wife, a good woman did. Years passed. My hair turned gray. My steps slowed. The world became louder, faster, and less patient with women like me. Still, I stayed in my home, the home Henry left me, believing it was the last place on earth where I was safe. Then one Tuesday afternoon, my son came over unannounced. David stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, eyes scanning the room as if measuring its worth. His wife Karen followed him inside, her heels sharp against the floor, her smile polite but distant. They didn't sit down. They didn't ask how I was. That was the first sign. "Mom," David said, clearing his throat, "we need to talk." I nodded and gestured toward the sofa, my sofa, the one I had chosen 30 years ago. Karen sat stiffly. David remained standing. "This house is too big for you now," he said. I laughed softly, thinking he was joking. "I've managed it for years." Karen folded her arms. "Managing isn't the same as what's best." What was best, they explained, was that I sell the house and move closer to them. Smaller space, easier life, less responsibility. For your own good, they said. But something in Karen's eyes told me this conversation had already ended before it began. I asked David one simple question. "Is this what you want?" He didn't answer right away. That silence changed everything. By the time they left, there was a folder on my table and a heaviness in my chest I had never felt before. That night, I cried without sound, the way older women learn to cry, quietly, neatly, without disturbing anyone. I didn't know it then, but that was the last night I slept as the woman I used to be. Because the next morning, when I looked at myself in the mirror, I saw something new behind the tired eyes. I saw a woman who had been taken for granted for far too long. And this was only the beginning. In the days that followed, I moved through my house like a guest waiting to be told when to leave. I touched the walls more often, as if memorizing their texture. Every object suddenly felt fragile, temporary, already halfway gone. David started calling more, but his voice had changed. It was careful now, polite, as if he were speaking to someone else's mother. Karen sent messages about paperwork, dates, appointments. She used words like efficient and practical. She never used the word home. Linda, my daughter, called once. She spoke quickly, nervously, as if afraid the conversation might grow heavy. "Mom, you should be grateful," she said. "Not everyone has children who worry about them." I wanted to ask her when worry began to look so much like control, but I stayed quiet. Silence had been my language for a long time. The lawyer's office smelled of coffee and disinfectant. I sat across from a man who spoke to my son more than he spoke to me. Papers were slid across the desk. Pages turned. Pens clicked. My name appeared in places I didn't remember agreeing to. When I hesitated, Karen smiled and squeezed my arm. "This is just a formality," she said. "Trust us." Trust. That word had once meant safety. I signed. The house sold quickly. Too quickly. Strangers walked through my rooms, commenting on the light, the space, the potential. None of them saw the life that had lived there. When the final day came, David helped pack. He wrapped dishes I had washed 1,000 times. He didn't look at my face when I cried quietly in the bedroom. The apartment they chose for me was clean, small, and empty of history. Beige walls. Thin curtains. A silence that felt unfamiliar and cold. David said it was perfect. Karen said it was sensible. Linda didn't come at all. The first night there, I sat on the bed fully dressed until morning. I kept expecting someone to call my name from the other room. No one did. Time became slow and heavy. Days blended together. I cooked less. I spoke less. I watched television without listening. When I called my son, he was busy. When I called my daughter, she didn't answer. I told myself this was normal. Children had lives. Mothers adjusted. But one afternoon, while unpacking the last box, I found something that stopped me. An old envelope, yellowed at the edges, tucked inside a book Henry used to read every night. Inside was a letter in his handwriting, careful and steady, dated just months before he died. Along with it was a bank statement. I sat down on the floor and read the letter twice. Henry had saved money. Quietly. Slowly. Enough to support me comfortably. Enough that the house had never needed to be sold. Enough that if I had known, everything would have been different. My hands began to shake, not with fear, but with clarity. David had known. He had access to the accounts. He had chosen not to tell me. For a long moment, I didn't cry. I just sat there, feeling something shift deep inside my chest. A weight I had carried for decades began to lift, replaced by something firmer, stronger. I stood up slowly. "I am not finished," I said out loud, my voice echoing against the empty walls. "And I am not helpless." That was the day I stopped waiting. I began small. I went to the community center near my apartment, a place I had passed many times without entering. There were women there, older women, laughing, arguing, telling stories. They welcomed me without asking what I had lost. They asked what I liked, what I knew, what I had lived. For the first time in years, someone listened. I started volunteering, helping other women who felt invisible, unwanted, pushed aside. I shared my story slowly, carefully. Every time I spoke, I felt stronger. Every time another woman nodded in recognition, I knew I wasn't alone. Months passed. My posture changed. My voice grew steadier. I opened my own bank account. I met with a lawyer. I asked questions I had never dared to ask before. When David finally called, his voice was uncertain. "Mom, we need to talk." This time, I didn't rush to answer, because the quiet woman in the corner was gone, and the woman who remained had finally found her voice, and with it, a strength I didn't know I still carried. I agreed to meet David a week later, in a small cafe near my apartment. I arrived early, not because I was nervous, but because I wanted to sit, observe, and remind myself that I no longer needed to rush for anyone. When he walked in, he looked older to me, smaller somehow. He smiled, the same careful smile he had used since the house was sold. "Mom," he said, leaning in for a hug. I didn't stand. I didn't open my arms. I simply nodded. We sat across from each other, the space between us filled with things unsaid. He spoke first, about work, about the children, about how busy life had become. I listened politely, the way one listens to a stranger sharing their routine. Finally, I placed Henry's letter on the table. David's face changed. "You knew," I said calmly. "You knew there was money. You knew I didn't have to lose my home." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. His eyes dropped to the table. "I thought it would be easier this way," he said quietly. "Easier for whom?" I asked. He didn't answer. I paid for my tea, stood up, and looked at him with a clarity that surprised even me. "I didn't raise you to take what wasn't yours," I said. "But I did raise myself to survive it." That was the last time I explained myself to him. I didn't go back to the house. I didn't ask for apologies. I didn't beg to be included. I began to build a life where my presence wasn't questioned. The women at the community center became my mornings. We shared stories over weak coffee and strong laughter. Some had been abandoned, some ignored, some quietly erased. All of us had lived full lives no one bothered to ask about anymore. One afternoon, a young woman approached me after a meeting. "You should tell your story," she said. "Out loud. People need to hear this." I laughed. "I'm too old for that." She smiled. "You're exactly old enough." So I began recording my thoughts. Just my voice at first. Simple words. Honest memories. Stories about love, sacrifice, betrayal, and survival. I didn't plan for anyone to listen. I just needed to speak. But people did listen. Women wrote to me. Women like me. Women older than me. Women younger, afraid of becoming invisible one day. They said my voice made them feel seen. They said it gave them courage. David heard about it through someone else. He left a message one night, his voice unsteady, asking if we could talk again. I listened to the message once. Then I deleted it. Forgiveness, I learned, does not always require reconciliation. I moved to a brighter apartment later that year, when I chose myself. I painted the walls a soft blue. I bought a new sofa chair and placed it by the window, where sunlight fell just right. Every morning, I sat there with my tea, warm this time, and watched the world move without me needing to chase it. I was no longer waiting to be invited into my own life. At 68, after everything they took from me, I discovered something far more valuable than a house. I discovered myself. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video. Share it with someone who may need to hear these words today. And don't forget to leave a comment. Your voice matters here. To stay connected and make sure our future stories reach you, please subscribe to the channel, Voice of a Woman, so every new story can find its way to you. Thank you for listening.